Welcome to the Systems Lab. Located within the compound of the Marine Corps Communications Electronics School in 29 Palms, California, this 2,356 square foot room contains 28 compartmentalized benches that range from short distance voice communications to satellite and data communications. This is where Marines who have endured the strenuous technical training for 9 months will take their final examination. This examination consists of a 2-week annex, bringing together everything they have learned throughout the radio maintenance course. Once they have satisfied the requirements of the systems annex, they will be ready to enter the Fleet Marine Force and join the ranks of the ground radio maintenance community. This is the culminating event that will bring to a close their 91 days of training. The journey to become a basic technician begins with learning the theory of electronics through Basic Electronics course. Once they have mastered the concept of basic electrical theory, those with the military occupational specialty of 2841 are sent to the ground radio repair course to familiarize themselves with the different radio systems that are in the Marine Corps. Their training in specialized radio theory begins in AM and FM, where they gain the basics of radio troubleshooting. They continue their training with the instruction on Harris radios, handheld radios, satellite communications, MRC 142, shop operations, and ancillary devices. Even though these Marines are thoroughly trained on each individual radio system, in the Systems Lab, they will have their first opportunity to learn how the different radios interface together to be utilized as an entire communications system. The System Lab itself has been built to allow realistic training on the setup and maintenance of the different radio systems. The entire lab is divided in half, allowing access only across a staircase that is monitored by the instructors of the course. This separation is used to simulate a distance of 35 miles between operating areas. This requires students on different sides of the network to set up at least one means of communication before they can make contact across the room. Both sides of the room also have dividers that allow for more separation and give the opportunity to react to several different radio positions. The crow's nest, located at the center of the room, allow for the instructors to have full view of the Systems Lab. At this vantage point, they can monitor all of the different areas and give guidance to any position that needs it. After a week of training within the lab and familiarizing each Marine with how the system is set up, the real challenge begins as the students have to utilize everything they have learned in complete darkness. The absence of light brings a challenge to the setting up of communications network that the students are unfamiliar with. This is accompanied by the sounds of gunfire and explosions, bringing a new element of realism to the training. The feeling of stress and anxiety that is used in this annex is one that the students have never felt sitting in a controlled classroom environment. This is a true test of their proficiency for the setup, maintenance, and operation of the system. In this nighttime scenario, the Marines will enter the lab with all the communication assets randomly positioned across the floor. Having only limited lighting using flashlights with red lenses, they will need to identify each piece of the system and properly set it in place, to include cabling. After a system has been fully assembled, they will then be responsible for configuring and programming the system for operations. A single error in setup or programming can cause an entire radio system to fail. It becomes vital for each Marine to understand each individual radio system as they work together to bring up communications. The ability to set up is crucial, but it is certainly not the most difficult part of the test. As maintainers, these Marines will be required to identify bad or faulty parts of a radio system. The instructors have given the students specific pieces of pre-faulted equipment that they will have to identify during setup. When a defective piece has been identified, they can bring the bad gear to the instructors to be switched out with a known good piece of gear. They will then attempt to gain communications with the good gear installed in the system. To pass the exam and complete the systems annex, the entire group will need to have open communications with every system across the room. Once the instructors have verified that this has been completed, their training is complete. This process will average around 4 to 6 hours, depending on the teamwork and skill that is employed to accomplish it. At this point, the students have met all the requirements and their training is complete. The Systems Lab has been the proving ground for radio maintainers for many years. Though the main idea has been constant, it is always changing and improving with the induction of new equipment into the Marine Corps and with new processes in communication. For the Marines that have completed this annex, it has become more than just a requirement for graduation. It is an examination of proficiency and skill that brings a sense of triumph and success. As this final challenge is finished, they are then ready to graduate the course and enter the Fleet Marine Force as brand new ground radio technicians.